The Ring of Destiny. The storm raged on as Peter trudged through the abandoned alleyway, his breath visible in the freezing night air. The city of Blackthorn was never kind to drifters, and Peter had been one for most of his life. He never stayed in one place for too long, always running, always searching for something he couldn't name. But tonight, fate had something different in store for him. A glint of silver caught his eye amidst the damp cobblestone. He bent down, fingers brushing against the cold metal. It was a ring, intricately designed with an emerald gemstone at its center. As soon as Peter touched it, a strange warmth spread through his body. His mind reeled with a vision. Flames, shadows shifting in the dark, and a woman's voice whispering, "Find Nicole." Peter staggered back, heart pounding. He didn't believe in magic or fate, but the moment he slipped the ring onto his finger, the world around him changed. The air grew denser, the sounds of the city became sharper, and his senses heightened. He could hear distant conversations, smell the distinct scent of burning rubber from blocks away, and feel an electric current buzzing beneath his skin. Then came the footsteps. Before he could react, a shadowy figure lunged from the darkness, a blade flashing under the streetlight. Peter barely dodged in time, his movements unnaturally swift. The attacker snarled and came at him again. Peter raised his hand instinctively, and to his shock, the ring pulsed with energy. A force erupted from his palm, sending the attacker hurtling backward into a wall. Panting, Peter looked at his hands. "What the hell is happening?" A soft chuckle came from behind him. He spun around, fists raised. A woman stood there, leaning against a lamppost, arms crossed. Her fiery red hair framed piercing green eyes that studied him with a mix of amusement and intrigue. "Nicole?" Peter asked, the name slipping from his lips as if it had been embedded in his soul. She smiled. "Took you long enough." Nicole led him through the maze-like streets until they reached an old bookstore tucked between two towering buildings. She unlocked the door with an ornate key, ushering him inside. The smell of aged paper and ink filled the space. Candles flickered on shelves lined with ancient tomes. "Tell me, Peter," Nicole said, sitting on a wooden chair, "how does it feel?" He flexed his fingers, feeling the energy coursing through him. "Like I just stepped into a world I don't understand." She nodded. "That ring you found, it's older than time itself. It chooses its bearer, granting them abilities beyond comprehension." Peter narrowed his eyes. "Abilities?" Nicole gestured toward a stack of books, and with a flick of her wrist, one of them floated into the air, gently landing in her hands. Peter gaped. "You're like me now," she continued. "Different, powerful, but that also means you're in danger." Peter swallowed. "From who?" A sudden explosion rattled the building. The windows shattered and flames licked the walls. Peter shielded his face as masked figures burst through the door, weapons drawn. Nicole reacted instantly, summoning a gust of wind that sent two attackers flying. Peter's instincts kicked in, and he dodged a blade, countering with a punch that sent his opponent sprawling. The ring pulsed again, and without thinking, Peter raised his hand. A shockwave erupted, knocking the remaining attackers unconscious. Nicole grabbed his wrist. "We need to go, now." They ran through the back door, emerging into a deserted street. Nicole kept a tight grip on his hand as they sprinted toward the subway. The city blurred past them, a cacophony of sirens, distant gunfire, and the ever-growing feeling that they were being watched. "Who were they?" Peter asked, breathless. "The Order," Nicole answered. "They've been hunting ring-bearers for centuries." Peter frowned. "Why?" Nicole stopped, eyes burning with urgency. "Because those rings hold the power to shape reality itself. And if the wrong hands get a hold of them," she didn't have to finish. Peter understood. He had stumbled into something far bigger than himself, and there was no turning back. Over the next few weeks, Nicole trained him. The ring enhanced his speed, strength, and reflexes, but it was his mind that needed sharpening. Every night, they fought, dodging, blocking, countering. Nicole was relentless, pushing him to his limits. "You're holding back," she snapped one evening after Peter hesitated during a sparring session. "I don't want to hurt you." She smirked, stepping closer. "You couldn't if you tried." With a flick of her wrist, she sent a shockwave toward him. Peter countered, grounding himself as the energy dissipated. Nicole grinned. "Better." But training wasn't the only thing on his mind. The Order was closing in. Each day, they left fewer places to hide. They had eyes everywhere, and Peter felt the weight of their presence like a noose tightening around his neck. Then came the night they found them. A rooftop in downtown Blackthorn. The wind howled as Nicole and Peter stood back to back. The Order had surrounded them, dozens of cloaked figures, eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. The leader stepped forward, his face hidden beneath a silver mask. "Give us the ring and we'll spare your lives." Peter glanced at Nicole. She gave a barely perceptible shake of her head. "No surrender." "Guess that's a no," Peter muttered. The leader sighed. "So be it." They attacked. Nicole moved like lightning, her power dancing through the air. Peter fought with raw energy, each punch fueled by the ring's magic. The rooftop became a battlefield of fire, wind, and steel. Peter caught a glimpse of the leader weaving through the chaos, heading straight for Nicole. His instincts screamed, and without thinking, he dove forward, intercepting the attack. The blade cut through his side, searing pain exploding through him. Nicole's scream echoed through the night. Peter fell to his knees, the world spinning. But as the leader reached for his ring, something inside him snapped. The pain dissolved, replaced by an overwhelming surge of energy. His vision sharpened, and time seemed to slow. The ring blazed with a golden light. With a guttural roar, Peter unleashed its full power. The rooftop trembled, a blinding wave of energy erupting outward. The Order was thrown back, the leader barely managing to retreat before being consumed by the light. Then silence. Nicole rushed to him, hands pressing against his wound. "Peter, stay with me?" He grinned weakly. "Did we win?" She let out a shaky laugh. "For now?" As dawn broke over the city, Peter realized something. He wasn't running anymore. He had found his purpose. And as long as he wore the ring, he would fight. Because destiny had chosen him. And he wasn't about to let it down.
Shadows in pursuit. Nancy's heart pounded like a war drum as the flickering neon lights outside her rain-speckled apartment window painted her face in hues of red and blue. In her line of work as a detective, she'd grown accustomed to the symphony of urban chaos. But tonight, the city felt different, like a predator lurking in the shadows. Her phone buzzed sharply on the coffee table, shattering the fragile silence. It was her partner, Oscar, and judging by the urgency in his voice, the storm brewing outside was nothing compared to the tempest awaiting them. "Nancy," Oscar's gravelly tone crackled through the receiver. "We've got a situation. He's back." Her breath hitched. "You mean Kane?" "Yeah. The escape was confirmed an hour ago. We've got to move fast before he vanishes again." "Kane? Kane?" The name alone was enough to send a chill crawling down her spine. A master manipulator, ruthless killer, and the ghost she and Oscar had been chasing for nearly 3 years. Every time they'd gotten close, Kane slipped through their fingers, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. Nancy grabbed her coat and holstered her weapon, determination solidifying her resolve. "Where do we start?" "There's been a sighting near the old docks," Oscar said. "And, Nancy, be ready for anything." The docks were a labyrinth of decaying warehouses and abandoned shipping containers, their silhouettes ghostly under the moon's pale glow. Nancy stepped carefully, her senses sharpened to a razor's edge. Oscar's footsteps echoed beside her, steady and deliberate. "This place gives me the creeps," he muttered, scanning the area with his flashlight. Nancy smirked, though her eyes betrayed her unease. "Since when did you start spooking so easily?" "Since we started chasing a psycho who enjoys turning his crimes into puzzles," Oscar replied. "Stay sharp. Kane's not just a killer, he's a strategist." As if on cue, a faint sound broke the stillness. A soft clatter, like metal brushing against stone. Nancy raised her hand, signaling Oscar to halt. She drew her gun, the weight familiar and reassuring. "Over there," she whispered, nodding toward a stack of containers. They moved as one, silent and precise. Nancy rounded the corner first, her weapon trained on the shadows. But the space was empty, save for a small ticking device perched on a crate. "Oscar," she hissed, "it's a trap!" The device erupted with a deafening explosion, the force sending them sprawling. Nancy's ears rang as she struggled to her feet, smoke and debris clouding her vision. "Oscar!" she shouted, coughing as she searched for him. "I'm okay." His voice came from somewhere to her left. He emerged from the smoke, a cut on his forehead, but otherwise intact. Kane wanted to send a message. Nancy's jaw clenched. Well, he's got my attention. The chase led them deeper into the city, Kane's breadcrumbs of chaos leaving a trail of destruction. Each clue he left behind was meticulously crafted, designed to taunt and test their resolve. At an abandoned theater, they found a chilling tableau. Mannequins dressed as actors, posed in grotesque mimicry of a murder scene. A note pinned to one of them read, "The stage is set. Are you ready to play?" "He's playing games with us," Oscar growled, crumpling the note in his fist. "And he's enjoying every second of it," Nancy added, scanning the room for hidden traps. "But games have rules, and every move he makes brings us closer." They scoured the theater, uncovering a map hidden beneath the stage. Marked with red X's, it pointed to various locations across the city. One stood out, an abandoned high-rise on the outskirts of town. "That's got to be his next move," Nancy said, adrenaline surging. "Let's end this." The high-rise loomed like a monolith against the night sky, its broken windows staring like empty eyes. Nancy and Oscar approached cautiously, their every step echoing in the cavernous lobby. "Stay close," Oscar warned, his gun drawn. They ascended the building, the air growing colder with each floor. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the creak of old metal and the distant hum of the city below. On the top floor, they found him. Kane stood by a shattered window, the city lights casting his lean figure in stark relief. He turned slowly, a smirk curling his lips. "Detectives," he drawled, "you finally caught up. I was starting to think you'd lost your touch." Nancy leveled her gun at him. "It's over, Kane." His laughter was low and mocking. "Over? Oh, Nancy, this is just the beginning." Before they could react, he pressed a button on a device in his hand. The building shuddered violently, the floor beneath them tilting as explosions ripped through the structure. "Run!" Oscar shouted, grabbing Nancy's arm as the ceiling began to collapse. They sprinted toward the stairs, debris raining down around them. Kane's laughter echoed in their ears, a haunting refrain as they fought to escape the crumbling high-rise. They burst onto the street just as the building collapsed in a deafening roar, a cloud of dust engulfing the area. Gasping for breath, Nancy turned to Oscar. "Did we get him?" Oscar's expression was grim. "Not yet. But he's running out of places to hide." Nancy's eyes burned with determination. "Then we keep chasing." The night stretched on, the city's lights flickering like a heartbeat. Kane was out there, somewhere, and Nancy and Oscar would stop at nothing to bring him to justice. The hunt had only just begun.